which NFL teams are making the playoffs and who's staying home. It's Who's In, Who's Out on 97.3 ESPN FM, South Jersey's football station.
It's brought to you by JC Motorsports, your truck accessory warehouse with the largest showroom in South Jersey. JC's got it. Let's go with the AFC East, boys. Any reason to believe the Patriots are not winning that division?
Not for me. Patriots and the fact that they're able to win without all those people John mentioned missing, Patriots are still in my team on top.
None whatsoever.
I've got
over week one.
I've got Cincinnati in the North. That's who I started with. No reason to change them. They won on the road in New York. Tough place to, tough win there.
I think I had Pittsburgh, and I'm still going with Pittsburgh in the North, but Cincy is in my equation later on.
Both very good teams, but you have to go with the Steelers, at least through week one. One of the most impressive teams, obviously, on Monday night.
Houston in the South for me. This one's a jumbled up division. I thought the defense wasn't dominating against the Bears. Going to get better as the season goes on. Osweiler was a little surprising. Will Fuller had a nice game.
I'm pretty sure I went with the Colts. I'm staying with the Colts, even though they were in a shootout game and lost to the Lions. The Colts defense has a ways to go, but I think that in that division, they're going to be able to put up points on teams and be able to come out on top.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to outscore people. I just think their defense is not good enough. And Houston, I'm picking them early. J.J. Watt probably had his worst game as a pro in week one because he wasn't ready. As he gets healthier off the back surgery, I think the Texans are really good defensively. They start to pull away.
In the West, this is an interesting one. Interesting your guys' picks. I started with Kansas City. I know they had to come from behind, but I'm going to stick with Kansas City because they were 1-5 last year and got better as the year goes on. I think they're a better team this year.
I went with Denver because I thought Denver's defense would do enough to counteract any negative effects that Simeon might bring, or a young offense or a new quarterback at offense. So I went with Denver there, and I still have Denver there. But, again, the other half, KC is in the equation.
Yeah, I'm going to put KC on top for now. They didn't play well in week one, but they came back to win the football game. I just think Trevor Simeon takes the Broncos back a step.
Wild card teams in the AFC. I think you saw one last night, Pittsburgh. I'm going Baltimore. 3 teams from the North get in. They're the 2 teams I had to start the year. Now, Baltimore scared me a little bit, 13 points in week number 1. But I think that team, healthier this year, is going to get into the playoffs. So I go 3 North teams making the playoffs.
I've got KC and Cincinnati as my 2 wild card teams. KC, who I think will be back and forth with Denver as far as the division goes, and Cincinnati from that strong AFC North division that you talked about, Mike Gill. I just think Pittsburgh's a little bit stronger.
Yeah, and I have the Broncos and the Bengals as the 2 wild card teams, and they're both very good. I agree with Mike. The AFC North is probably the deepest division. Baltimore will be in the conversation. Denver's defense, though, right now, still too good. And Cincinnati, all they do is make the postseason, even though they lose when they get there.
That's the AFC. Who's in and who's out. Let's go over to the NFC side of things. We go from the bottom up over there in the West. Arizona lost. It's a bad loss, but I'm sticking with them in that West. It had 2 teams play last night that didn't even look like an NFL game. And there's some injury issues with the Seattle Seahawks, so I'm going Arizona.
Right, and I had picked Seattle in week 1, and I'm staying with Seattle. They were able to pull out a victory, and there was no reason for me to see, especially with Arizona losing, no reason for me to see why Seattle can't win that division.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with Arizona early. That was a tough loss, though, at home with all those players missing for the Patriots. That could hurt them mentally, so I may differ in the coming weeks, but for right now, I think Arizona is so talented, they'll overcome it.
Carolina was the 15-1 Super Bowl representative in the NFC last year. They get off to an 0-1 start. However, I'm not budging off of Carolina. I still think they're the best team in the NFC, and I have them winning the NFC South.
I have the Panthers in as well. I have the Panthers winning the NFC South, and yeah, I mean, I thought that opening night game, they certainly had plenty of chances to beat Denver, and there's nothing that I could see out of them that says to me that they're not a playoff team.
Yeah, I go with Carolina. They're still the best team in the division. If that was a decent snap, Graham Gano probably makes the field goal. We wouldn't be talking about this. They would have won. But they'll be solid in that division. They'll come through. They're not going to be 15-1, obviously, but they'll win it rather easily.
This one should be interesting in the North. I started with Minnesota. I'm going to stick with Minnesota. I remember last year, it looked like Minnesota with all the injuries on defense, they weren't going to make it. They went 11-5 and won that division. I think this team, yes, no Bridgewater, but they're very good on defense. Bradford should take over. That should, give them a capable quarterback. I got Minnesota winning the North over Green Bay.
I'm almost 100% certain, Mike, that I said Green Bay last week, and I've switched right away to Minnesota based off what their defense
I'm surprised by that.
Do. Hey, Minnesota's defense, I thought, was pretty strong, and they showed me against the Titans really strong with Eric Kendricks and that 77-yard interception return. So I've got Minnesota winning the North now, but Green Bay is in the conversation.
Yeah, we got the wrong Kendricks, that's for sure. But the day I pick Sam Bradford over Aaron Rodgers is the day I get out of this profession. Not going to happen. Green Bay Packers win the NFC North.
All right, let's go to the NFC East, which right now, 71 votes in, 66% say Eagles, 21% say Giants, 10% say Cowboys, 3% say Redskins. On who the favorite is in the NFC East right now, guys, I can't agree with the listeners. Right now, I went Washington week 1. I'm going Giants in week 2. I thought they looked the most complete of the 4 NFC East teams. So 21%. I'm going to go with the small majority there over the Philadelphia 66% majority.
Well, and like a stubborn individual that I am, I went Redskins in week 1, and I'm staying Redskins in week 2, despite how poor they looked against Pittsburgh. I think that the Redskins can make some adjustments and come out and beat a not-so-good Dallas team, and then if they're able to win at the Giants in week 3, they sit 2-1, and everything's right back where people thought it would be as them being the leading team in the division.
I really want to go CM Punk here and just tap out and not take anybody. However, if I have to pick somebody, I guess I'm going to pick Eli Manning and the New York Giants. The best of a bad lot to this point. It's not saying much.
Wild card teams in the NFC. I'm going Green Bay. And last week I went Seattle. If Russell Wilson is banged up, and he might play, but he might not be the same guy, I got concerns about them. And I'm going Tampa as the second wild card team with Jameis Winston, a better defense, Mike Evans, a good run game with Doug Martin. That team's scary, a little sneaky, I should say, more so than scary. But I think it's a down NFC. I think the second wild card is very much up for grabs in the NFC.
And because I've flip-flopped my teams in the NFC North, I had Green Bay winning it last week. I've got Green Bay as the top wild card spot. I think the Packers, certainly I thought they had enough pedigree to win the division. I still think they have enough pedigree to make the playoffs. The embarrassment for me last week was when I vomited out the name Atlanta. Thank you, Matt Ryan and the Falcons, for doing absolutely nothing to validate that. So they are off my radar as far as they can be, and Arizona is my second wild card team.
Yeah, I'm going Seattle. Still Russell Wilson. They won the football game, even though it wasn't impressive. He probably is going to play. He's not going to be hurt the entire year, obviously. I think they're still a wild card team. And I agree with Mike. I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Jameis Winston over the Vikings, who I think are going to miss Teddy Bridgewater too much to get back in the playoffs.
That's our who's in and who's out after 1 week of NFL football. Tell us where you thought we were wrong at 609-403-0973 on the Dubell Lumber Tech Sport